Weird, right? Tavon wasn't there. What was she doing here during office hours? I thought she'd be working. Cassius, who was bringing a spoonful to his mouth, jumped so much that the spoon fell with a dry clatter into the bowl, splashing the table. His face palled instantly. He bent down in a hurry to pick it up, hiding his nervousness. Oh, yeah, well, I guess she came to drop something off for Tavon. I don't know, honestly. I was stuck in the office all day. I observed his clumsiness, feeling an indescribable bitterness. This man I once considered my everything was now just a clumsy and cowardly liar. I smiled, a faded smile. Oh, right. I thought you would know. The doorman told me her car was parked there for a long time. All afternoon. Cassius fell silent abruptly, eating with his head down, not daring to look at me even once. The atmosphere of the breakfast became dense, heavy, as if a slab were crushing our chests. After the spoon incident, Cassius became much more cautious. He walked on tiptoes, spoke in a low voice, and constantly threw sideways glances at me. Every time I picked up my phone, his body tensed. He knew the prey was starting to smell danger, but the trap I had set was just beginning to close. That night, I came home later than usual on purpose, so he would wait for dinner with anxiety. When I entered, dinner was cold, and he was sitting on the sofa with an expression of unease. Seeing me, he jumped up to reheat the food. That excessive kindness felt even more repugnant to me, because I knew that behind that fake concern hid a universe of guilt. During dinner, as I served him a piece of catfish on his plate, I dropped a question into the air, light as a breeze. Honey, you're sleeping poorly lately. You look bad. Cassius paused for a moment and then forced a smile. Well, sometimes I have a lot of stress at work. It's a bit hard to sleep. Why do you ask? I put down my silverware and looked him directly in the eyes. My gaze was no longer that of a sweet wife. It contained a sharp suspicion. It's just that today, when I went to turn off the light, the doorman stopped me to ask me something. He says, "The nights I was away, he saw you leave with the car in the middle of the night and come back almost at dawn." I told him he was surely mistaken, that you sleep like a log, but he insisted he saw our car's license plate. Cash's face went from red to pale white. He almost choked on the bite he was chewing. He grabbed the glass of water and drank in a long gulp to calm himself. His eyes moved nonstop, avoiding my direct gaze. Beads of sweat started to break out on his forehead, even though the air conditioning was set to 72 degrees. That doorman? He's probably old and seeing things. Where would I go at those hours? What nonsense? His voice had become abnormally high-pitched, a clear sign of someone who feels discovered and tries to cover up the truth. I sighed, feigning genuine concern, and put my hand on his forehead. I told him that too, but he described it to me in detail. He said the car was heading toward the outskirts. I'm getting worried. What if you're sleepwalking? I read in the paper that a lot of people with stress do unconscious things at night and don't remember anything in the morning. What if we go to the doctor tomorrow? It's dangerous. If something happens to you on the road, what would become of me? My words, loaded with apparent solicitude, were actually pliers tightening his terrified mind. I was executing my plan to plant in his head the fear that his secret escapades had been discovered, but under an appearance of innocence. Cassius pushed my hand away, visibly upset, and got up to pace from one side of the living room to the other. No, that's not necessary. Surely, it's that I'm sleepwalking. Lately, I'm very tense. I'll regulate myself. I'll drink some herbal tea and that's it. No need to spend money on doctors. I followed his back with my gaze, smiling inwardly. If he clung to such a ridiculous excuse as sleepwalking, it meant that fear had already overcome his reasoning. I continued with another psychological blow. Well, be very careful. I've heard that if you wake a sleepwalker suddenly, they can suffer a shock. And the doorman also told me that one of those nights he thought he saw your car around Anaya's house area. I suppose you were worried she was alone and stopped by to see how she was, right? You're so thoughtful. My last sentence was like a fatal stab. Cassius stood petrified. He turned. Wash. I pulled these out to make do. A lie so clumsy that even a child would have discovered it, but I just nodded with a slight smile. Wow. You're so clumsy. Well, I'll change them again tomorrow. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and turned the shower on full blast. Under the stream of water, I didn't cry. I looked at myself in the mirror with dry, cold eyes. In the stillness of the night, the ticking of the wall clock resonated. Each dry beat like a hammer blow to my bleeding heart. Cassius slept beside me. His breathing was regular. That broad back I once considered my greatest refuge now felt strange and terribly cold to me. I curled up on the edge of the bed, trying to make myself as small as possible so as not to brush against his skin. The sensation of disgust I had felt since the afternoon was still stuck to me like a layer of mud impossible to wash off. I lay with my eyes open, staring at the dark ceiling, wondering how a person could change so much in so little time. 10 years of sharing everything. Were they not worth more than a moment of fleeting pleasure? I waited for the clock to strike 2 inches the morning. Cassius's snores became deeper and constant. I knew my moment had arrived. Holding my breath, I turned with slow and cautious movements like a thief acting in her own house. The light from the nightstand illuminated Cassius's face. He slept peacefully without a trace of guilt or worry. That only stoked the fury inside me. With extreme care, I took his hand, the same hand I had held tightly on our wedding day. Now I used it to unlock his phone, which was on the nightstand. The screen lit up, its bluish light projecting a frigid glow onto my face. Quickly, I lowered the volume and began my silent investigation. WhatsApp, Instagram, text messages, everything was spotless. Like a blank page, not a single trace, not a suspicious message. That perfect cleanliness was proof of his meticulous preparation. But I wasn't a naive woman easy to fool. I knew the tricks of men who want to hide secrets all too well. I went into the app's settings looking for hidden folders skillfully disguised as work management software, and sure enough, a secure messaging appeared that required a numeric password. I tried his date of birth without success. Our wedding anniversary didn't work either. Finally, I entered Anaya's date of birth. The screen unlocked instantly, revealing an avalanche of messages. The images were so vulgar I had to close my eyes to suppress the nausea. But that wasn't all. Trembling, I accessed his banking app, where I trustingly let him manage his personal expenses. The transaction history appeared like a crushing sentence. The figures danced before my eyes, and I felt as if someone were squeezing my heart. Transfer of $52. Concept. For my baby. Transfer of $13,000. Concept. A life by your side. Those numbers, codes of love among teenagers, were now being used by my husband, a 40-year-old man, to seduce his sister-in-law. And worst of all, a transaction from last week, a credit card payment of $10,000 at a luxury jewelry store. I remembered that day Cassius had come home with a face like a funeral, complaining that the company was doing poorly, that bonuses had been cut, and that he couldn't give me money for household expenses that month. At that moment, pitying him, I believed him so he wouldn't feel pressured. Not only did I not ask him for anything, but I transferred money to his account so he would be more comfortable. It turned out that my generosity and trust had served for him to embezzle family accounts and buy expensive jewelry for his mistress. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every transfer. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the phone. After sending all the evidence to my own mobile and erasing any trace of my access, I put his phone back where it was. I lay down, but my body was frozen as if I had just come out of a walk-in freezer. The next morning, I got up earlier than usual and prepared a full breakfast as always, but my heart was completely cold. Cass came out of the bedroom stretching and yawning. Seeing me set the table, he smiled. What a hard-working woman. Breakfast already ready. I served him a bowl of grits and placed it in front of him. I tried to make my voice sound normal, but my eyes, sharp as knives, scrutinized him. Eat while it's hot. Hey, by the way, yesterday when I came back, I saw Anaya's car parked in our spot. Throw myself on them and destroy that pair of adulterers. But the logic of a businesswoman held me back at the last second. Trembling, I took my phone out of my jacket pocket, activated the video mode, and aimed the lens through the narrow crack. 2 minutes. I only needed 2 minutes to record the whole raw and dirty truth. 2 minutes to bury the marriage I had once venerated. When I finished recording, I backed away in silence, grabbed my suitcase, closed the front door gently, and left the house like a ghost, taking a shattered heart with me. I don't know how I got out of the building. I only know that sitting in the Uber, my whole body was shaking as if I had malaria. I asked the driver to take me to Maka's house, my best friend and attorney, the only person I could trust at that moment. I was afraid that if I stayed alone, I would do something crazy or collapse completely. Michaela received me with a look of horror, seeing me planted at her door with a suitcase and a pale face without a drop of blood. When I showed her the 2-minute video, she, known for her composure and sharpness in court, couldn't help but let out a curse full of bitterness. Michaela grabbed my hand tightly. Her eyes burned, but her voice was incredibly firm. Zara, listen to me closely. Do not make a scene under any circumstances. If you do, you lose. You will lose your dignity and your assets. You have to keep calm. Make them ruin themselves. Make them leave with empty hands. Understood? Maka's words were like a bucket of ice water that restored a bit of my sanity. She was right. I am Zara, a woman who has fought in the business world for years. I couldn't let my emotions destroy me now. They had trampled on my pride, our family relationship, and my marriage. I would return that pain multiplied by 10. After resting for a few hours at Mika's to regain strength, I applied makeup carefully to hide my puffy eyes and gaunt face. Then I dragged the suitcase back home when night had completely fallen. I took a deep breath in front of the door, telling myself that I was about to enter a great stage and that I had to be the best actress. I opened the door, this time making noise on purpose, and called out loudly, "Honey, I'm home. I missed you so much." There was a brief and disturbing silence, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Cassius appeared from the bedroom, already dressed in impeccable pajamas, but with his hair still somewhat messy and a hint of panic on his face that he hadn't managed to hide. He ran toward me to take my suitcase, grinning from ear to ear, although his eyes didn't stop scanning my expression. "Wow, didn't you say you were coming back tomorrow? What a surprise!" "Why didn't you call me so I could pick you up?" I smiled, a smile that felt sickeningly fake as I caressed his arm. The project finished early. I changed my ticket to come back. "I wanted to surprise my love. Aren't you happy?" Cassius hugged me with a forced laugh. "Of course, I'm happy. My wife coming home is the best thing that can happen to me. I missed you to death." His hug caused a chill to run through me, but I stood still. My sharp woman's intuition detected something anomalous immediately. Although Cassius had opened all the windows to air out the place and had probably sprayed half a can of air freshener, the sweet and intense aroma of a very specific perfume still floated in the air. Coco Mademoiselle was Inia's signature fragrance, and I myself had gifted her that bottle for her birthday last year. That perfume was now irrefutable proof. The proof of her presence in this house, on my husband's body, and probably in my own bed. I pulled away from his embrace, figning exhaustion, and headed for the bedroom. "I'm exhausted. I'm going to take a shower and go to sleep." Upon entering the room, the first thing that caught my attention was an almost unnatural order, and what surprised me most were the sheets. I remembered perfectly having put on a set of charcoal gray tencel sheets before leaving, but now in their place was a cheap pastel pink cotton set that I had banished to the back of the closet a long time ago. I turned to Cases with an expression of feigned surprise. Hey, why did you change the sheets? I had just put the other ones on. Cassius jumped and stammered for a couple of seconds before giving a quick explanation. Oh, yeah. This afternoon while watching TV, I spilled a cup of coffee on the bed and it stained everything. So, I put them in the... The sudden downpour at dusk left the city soaked and gloomy. The raindrops sliding down the window of the Uber seemed to trace the unease in my soul. I dragged my suitcase to the entrance of the building with a small bubble of joy rising inside me. I had finished my business trip a day earlier than planned. That incredibly difficult contract had finally been signed successfully. For 10 years, I had poured myself into work, financially supporting the entire family, transforming from a fragile girl into a boss woman in the business world. Also Cassius, my husband, could hold his head high in front of others. I promised myself that tonight I would cook a good soul food dinner to make up for all the days he had spent eating takeout. The exhaustion from the long flight seemed to vanish as I imagined his smile when he saw me come home early. However, my steps stopped dead just as I entered the familiar parking garage right at spot B15, a prime space I had paid over $50,000 to own. In that privileged spot, instead of waiting empty for my car, rested a flashy cherry red Mustang. I narrowed my eyes to check the license plate, and a sensation of unease ran through me like a chill. It was Anaya's car, my sister-in-law, I asked myself. Today is Tuesday. Tavon, my little brother, is supervising a construction site on the outskirts. Anya should be at her office or at her parents' house. Why would she come all the way here during work hours? A vague suspicion arose in my mind, but I quickly dismissed it, reassuring myself with the idea that maybe she had come to ask her brother-in-law for help with something urgent, or simply to drop something off for Tavon. I dragged my suitcase toward the elevator. The screech of the wheels echoed in the silence of the garage, strangely shrill. Inside the elevator, I observed my reflection in the stainless steel mirror. A 35-year-old woman in an impeccable business suit, but with a face that already showed the weariness of time, with deep bags under her eyes from sleepless nights preparing projects. I sighed, wondering if Cases would realize how much I had aged, or if to him I was still just a tireless money-making machine. The elevator doors opened on the 18th floor. The hallway was deserted. Only my footsteps on the hardwood could be heard. I tiptoed toward our condo with the intention of giving my husband a little surprise. I didn't ring the bell or use the key. I simply slid my finger over the biometric scanner. The lock opened with a soft click, like a sigh. The house was submerged in a silent gloom. With the curtains drawn, the air was impregnated with the scent of lavender essential oil I usually used, but today it seemed mixed with another strange and unfamiliar smell. I took off my heels just as I was about to call out to him. A peculiar sound coming from the master bedroom made a lump form in my throat. It wasn't the television or a normal conversation. It was the breathless moans of a woman mixed with the heavy, agitated breathing of a man. I froze, rigid, as if someone had poured cement over me. The blood seemed to freeze in my veins, then boil and rush to my head. Holding my breath, I stealthily approached the slightly ajar bedroom door. A small sliver of light filtered from inside, enough to see what was happening in our marital bed, on the luxurious charcoal gray sheets that I myself had changed before leaving on my trip. Two bodies were intertwined with unbridled passion, and the woman was none other than my sister-in-law, whom I had always loved and protected like a sister. Cassius's voice resonated, hoarse and loaded with desire. Every word was like a poisoned needle stabbing directly into my heart. You are incredibly pure, baby. Not like my old lady. Looking at her doesn't even turn me on anymore. She's a woman as dry as a stick who only knows how to make money. Anya let out a giggle. Her voice was cloyingly childish. And yet you're scared to death of her. What if she comes back suddenly? Cassius laughed with contempt. Scared of what? She said she was coming back tomorrow. And if she appeared, I'd tell her you came to ask for help fixing a pipe. That stupid woman believes everything. She believes me blindly. My ears were ringing. I felt the floor sinking beneath my feet. I had to cover my mouth tightly to not choke on a sob. 10 years of my youth. 10 years of sacrifice. And what did I receive in return? The word stupid and this infamous betrayal. Rage consumed me. I wanted to.